are there in see those new ones? Okay, I think we'll start it up. There is a suggestion in the chat in branding your name, depending on what kind of organization you are working with. But we'll see here to try to share a few slides. So very much welcome to this webinar, Scaling Up Cooperatives in Rural Areas. We are doing this in the project MERSE, Business Models Empowering Rural Society, Social Entrepreneurship, Voicing the Rural Norm. And we are working in the MPR program, the Interreg program in the Northern Europe. And we're working with specific objective, enhancing sustainable growth and competitiveness for small and medium-sized enterprises and job creation, including productive investment. And the object for the project is to make it easy to start up and develop social enterprises in rural areas. And we are including our definition of cooperatives as a part of the areas of group of social enterprises. And there are 18 partners in this project, led by the lead partner Mid Sweden University, and the partners are from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, and Iceland. And a mixture of academic organizations supporting business support organizations and municipalities and regions. So we're letting those two go more in. And the project has some expected results, and we will create a transnational project partnership. We are building an online training platform, which are still under construction, but you can reach it on rural.eu. And we are also creating an impact measurement tool. We are working with a social, we are giving a social enterprise support with our methods and using the tool. And we are developing a new peer-to-peer leadership learning concept in the project. That will be the results. And today's speaker about cooperative development is Taneli Vaskinen from the University of Helsinki. So Taneli, I will end my presentation and give the floor to you.
Brilliant. Just a moment. I'll try to share my slides. Where are they now? There they are. Sorry. Like so. Could you sort of tell me if you can see my slides now?
Yes, excellent.
Yes.
Brilliant. So yeah, welcome also on my behalf. I'll be talking about scaling up cooperatives in rural areas for some 15 minutes. The main beef of this this seminar is actually the discussion that follows, but I try to sort of build the foundation for the discussion in the following 15 minutes or so. I'll sort of shortly introduce the topic first, and as well as myself, and then I'll talk about challenges and possibilities for rural cooperative scaling, and finally go to the questions for the panel discussion. And in between, if you want, we can also sort of have some questions of the presentation if you need some clarifying, if there are some things that need clarification on the presentation. Well, first, who am I and why am I talking here? I'm an academic research fellow here in Ruralia, in the Ruralia Institute of the University of Helsinki. And my sort of research area is sort of widely speaking sustainable economy and cooperatives. Um, I worked in Ruralia for some 4 years now, but already for some 10 years, I have studied cooperative growth. Mostly my work has been in new sectors such as renewable energy and car sharing. Actually, they are quite urban sort of context. And I've looked at both what happens to the cooperatives as they scale, because they often have to balance between their sort of democratic principles, their mission, and then sort of the growth, as well as what's driving their growth. But I think I should already sort of do some expectation management and tell you that from research we cannot give any sort of silver bullets on how to really drive cooperative growth. I will sort of provide some ideas that have come along the way, and especially share some insights from a recent study on rural cooperative energy. Um, but as said, there are no silver bullets on how to achieve cooperative growth, and it is very challenging topic. I think we should always start from these questions. Why should cooperatives scale in the first place? As I said, I study sustainable economy, and sort of I think always we need to ask, why is growth necessary in the first place? Growth for growth's sake is, in sort of, I argue, one of the main reasons why we have many of the environmental and social crises that we have today. So why grow? Well, the first thing really is for specialization. So I mean, you need certain scale in any given company in order to specialize, in order to give people the possibility to dedicate their full time to do something well, right? This is important for, mere running of the operations, but it's especially important if you're making a product, for example, that competes in the marketplace, and you have to differentiate somehow. Specialization is the key to good quality usually, and that requires certain size. The other thing is that you need adequate size often for resilience. I mean, um, occasionally you need to sort of change your business model in some way, and if you are not of adequate size, it's hard to say what the adequate size is, and it depends on the industry. It's hard to change because often to accrue capital for the changes requires you to have some guarantees for loan givers, or like banks and other sort of finance institutions. And if you don't, if you're very small, it's hard to sort of accrue this kind of capital. Finally, and unfortunately, sort of often you need certain scale for legitimacy. Small social enterprises often find it difficult to be taken seriously, even by their local municipalities. So some colleagues of mine who are also working in the Finnish team in the MERSE Project have studied that often social enterprises and also, I mean, cooperatives, it's often sort of a blurry line between the two. They really struggle to be taken seriously, even by sort of their local municipalities, which really holds them back, right? However, I want to emphasize that in this webinar, we're not aiming for scaling for growth's sake, but rather talking about how to achieve the scale in which the business can sort of be self-sustaining and legitimate in the eyes of external stakeholders. Yeah, a couple of words of what do we mean with cooperative scale up then. We're referring to why I have this slide is that I know that in many countries, or in different countries, the cooperative legislation is really different. So in some countries, cooperatives can take external capital. In some countries, cooperatives can give out more votes than one to one person. But let's say that cooperative scale up is roughly the scale up of any organization that roughly follows one member, one vote rule. So we're not talking about limited companies who can just give out shares to venture capitalists and sort of like grow in that way and also give decision power away with money in a way. And why this is sort of a separate topic from organizational growth in general is that these kinds of organizations are often challenged in contemporary societies. For example, when acquiring finance or seeking other kinds of support from outside the organization. Sort of, I should note that often when academics talk about sort of cooperative scale up, they don't only refer to organic growth. Rather, they can also talk about scale up in terms of replications of the organization. So often when academics talk about, for example, the scale up of cooperative energy, they don't just sort of talk about how the cooperatives grow. They also talk about how the sort of the amount of the cooperatives increase. But in this session, we mostly discuss, organic growth of individual cooperatives. All right, then sort of boring into the challenges and possibilities of rural cooperative scaling. But starting with what do we know of cooperative scaling? What do we know about it? Well, mostly we know that it is quite difficult, actually. So cooperatives often have difficulties to get access to finance, and they need a lot of slowly growing social capital to be able to take risks. So, I mean, it's very hard to sort of kickstart a cooperative to take on a huge project. This is why you don't see cooperatives in sectors like I don't know, oil drilling or mining or drug development, because these are sectors that require huge upfront capital investments, and cooperative model just doesn't really suit these kinds of businesses very well. And I mean, as they grow, they really have to think about different issues. For example, democratic principles. They really need to consider how they hold on to their principles when they start to get members who are actually interested in their products and not just the cooperative itself. This has been visible, especially in the Central Europe, in sort of community energy or energy cooperatives, which have been sort of quite successful in a way, and they have attracted people who are mainly interested in cheap energy and not the cooperative. So they need to sort of balance between the different kinds of principles driving the organization. Often cooperatives also scale through federation and cooperation. So it's common that cooperatives that work in the same sector do not really see each other as cutthroat competitors, right? They often cooperate if one provides advisory services, for example, in the energy sector, and the other provides energy. They might sort of, help each other out, provide each other's members the services that the other one provides. And what I mean with federation is that often you see that cooperatives found for so-called meta organizations or umbrella organizations that sort of drive their issues in different levels, be they municipal, federal, or state, to sort of coordinate between the very bottom of organizations that you have in different places. So it's much more bottom up than what would be sort of if you would have a sort of corporation, which usually has like a top management and then branches and so on and so forth. Often it also creates possibilities, actually, because, for example, energy cooperatives, once they run, they cannot be often outcompeted very easily because they are based on self-sufficiency and then some sales outside, right? So basically, it also creates the possibility of financial sustainability because they cannot be easily outcompeted. All right, that's cooperative scaling. What do we then know of cooperative scaling in rural areas? Well, it is often even more difficult. So I mean, as said, cooperatives have difficulties of accessing finance, but it seems that for rural cooperatives, you often need as much guarantees for your investment loans as you are lending. The energy cooperatives that we interviewed said that when they started their business operations in the 1990s, you really sort of you had when you had an idea and you had sort of like a business plan, you had your loan in 4 days. One of the interviewees said that for the last investment they had to wait for 4 months, and you really need a lot of guarantees to back up the loan that you're sort of applying for. The second thing that really sort of separates rural cooperatives from urban cooperatives is that even if you have growth opportunities, you might not be able to seize them because of lack of skilled people. For example, some of the rural energy cooperatives had the possibility of providing district heating to neighboring municipalities, but they couldn't seize the opportunities really because they didn't know if there is someone who can actually run a power plant in those municipalities, right? So even if you would have money and you would have a business opportunity to grasp that, you don't necessarily have the people to run the business, and you usually need local people to do that, right? However, sort of like it's really come clear, or dawned on me that during MERSE Project and also other projects that I've done recently, that often rural cooperatives engage in super important functions in their communities. They bring about value creation that is highly important for local communities, and no other actor wants or is able to deliver. And hence, sort of like the scale, sort of reaching the adequate scale to be legitimate, to be financially sustainable is super important. Now, I mean, the picture is not all bleak. There are some trends that create opportunities for cooperatives in rural areas. In the right-hand side, you can see sort of a picture from the article from some colleagues of mine who study sort of cooperative emergence, energy cooperative emergence in Germany, and it has been really sort of strong. And I mean, of course, I mean, it's not easy to find like all encompassing or like cross-sectoral trends that really drive growth in rural areas, but especially with renewable energy, I mean, 80% of the high yield potential lies in rural areas. And by the way, the big actors really want to engage with the local communities because it has been shown that if the local communities resist, for example, wind projects, they take longer to actually come to pass, or it takes longer from the plan to the build phase of the plant. And I mean, waiting costs money for corporations, so they really want these you know the local communities on board in these projects. And often it is best achieved by having a local cooperative who is a partial owner in these projects. On the other hand, it's not only sort of renewable energy, but also tourism creates economic opportunities in some areas. For example, in Finnish Lapland, the flow of tourists has grown constantly, and it grew sort of 19% like last year alone. So there's, for some areas, for example, tourism can create new opportunities. On the other hand, I mean, often corporations do reap much of these opportunities. For example, many renewable energy projects are owned by international investors and not local cooperatives. And Rovaniemi, which is sort of like really one of the epicenters of the Lapland tourism in Finland, has more stays in Airbnb than the hotels do in the area, and sort of I think I've heard that it's proportionately one of the highest Airbnb stays in the world in a way, compared to sort of the number of Airbnb apartments within one city. And of course, I mean, Airbnb could be sort of also community empowering, but often it empowers sort of apartment investors that do not necessarily live locally. And Airbnb, of course, itself is a global platform that reaps profits, you know, they take a margin out of each stay. So it's not really a small community actor. Now, sometimes, well, in this the headline of this slide says help from regulation and from previous business. Often, what you see actually is that regulation slows these community projects down. So, for example, in Finland, in cooperative energy, this sector hasn't really started up, and arguably it is because you cannot have these virtual energy communities, which are not, you know, just one block of flats with one outlet to the electric grid, but many apartments or many farms using the same solar plant, for example. Equally, I've heard of cases where local providers have lost tenders to bigger, sort of more centralized actors because of EU competition legislation. So often regulation actually can reap more opportunities out from local rural cooperatives than give them back. But there are some cases where the opposite is also true. For example, the new Dutch climate agreement states that 50% of the new renewable energy projects should have local ownership, and this is actually done, even though this is not legally binding, you know, legislation, but still. And sort of what this means often that even if you have investor-owned projects, often they have a partial or one of their partial owners is a local energy cooperative. The money follows the person principle can also create possibilities for local health cooperatives. Honestly, I'm not really an expert on this, but it's just interesting to see that in some places where, for example, Sweden, where you have this principle, you can have these health cooperatives, which we practically have zero in Finland, even though Finland is very strong in cooperatives otherwise. So basically, if you have these models where people can bring the money with them to cooperatives, sometimes you can create possibilities for local rural local rural cooperatives. And why I have this example is, of course, that one of the megatrends in rural areas is aging, and hence health cooperatives could create some possibilities. And finally, previous investments can, of course, sometimes be used as guarantees for further investments. So what we saw in the energy sector, for example, is that some producer cooperatives were going into reserve markets. So basically, to store the energy that is created by when there's a lot of wind or a lot of solar power, and that they sell this sort of store this energy and sell it to the markets when sort of like the surplus of energy has passed. And they use these previous investments in their power plants as guarantees for the further investments. Of course, this raises the question of how do you get started? This already requires some millions of capital, right? Well, that's the really tricky issue. Like one of the classic models is, of course, municipality as an anchor customer, and we're actually sort of trying to find out best practices on the NPA level on how to create best practices between, well, it's not only cooperatives, but social enterprises, local social enterprises, and municipalities. And of course, there are some different kinds of investment funds. I don't want to bore into this issue because it depends on the country and on the sector and so on and so forth. And by the way, I'm not an expert on this issue. So, but they are sometimes tricky to use. So, for example, the energy sort of support mechanisms for farmers, they used to be quite good, but the bureaucracy for founding a solar panels or sort of solar farm were so it was so high that very few sort of farmers really sort of went into it. So often the meaning is sort of the intention is good, but not the implementation might actually then stop sort of from these investment funds from helping local cooperatives to grow. All right, I mean that's all I had to say as a foundation for this this presentation. Next, we're going to sort of discuss the panel discussion sort of questions, which I have now in the slide. I will put them back in a moment. But at this point, if you want to ask some questions, if you have like longer comments, let's keep them to the discussion. But if you want to ask clarifying questions or raise some issues up before the discussion, you're free to do that now. I'll take the participants, so I'll see you. There's some stuff on the chat. I don't know if it's just, yeah, there's the questions. Any questions at this point? I don't see any raised hands now. All right.
Okay,
no...
this is what we are going to do now is to put you in some breakout rooms, and some of you will be lucky to just speak your own native language. You can try in the beginning when you meet if you can do that, and we encourage you to put on the camera so you get good meetings. And the question, as Stanley said, is we put it in the chat as well. And I think some of you are leaving now. I hear that. But I will open the rooms now if you don't have any questions or what to talk about. These are just panelists' suggestions for the last phase in the workshop. Is that okay? Are we ready to go?
Ready.
Gunilla och Ålesund. Going to put you in the room too. No?
Excuse me, I'm looking for the room for Iceland, I guess.
Oh, you want to go to Iceland, of course.
Yes, please.
Is it thank you, Patrak?
Tanki Patrak, and that's right.
Yes. You are going to meet some of the Icelandic people, I think. No, I think they just they went.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now I have it. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
For number 4, you were going to meet some of them. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sorry, I also somehow dropped out from the group.
Yeah. Where are you then? I just have to put you. You're not visible here.
Room 3, I think. Room 3.
Yeah, good. Room 3. But you're not. I can't get you from. Okay, I put you in number 2, and then I remove you. I'm sorry, you have to go around now.
It's okay.
Okay. Men stackarn. No? Yes. move to room 3.
You can also put me to some room.
Yes. The Finland, number 3, perhaps.
Hello. Yes, I was in number 3, but it just threw me out, so I'm back here.
Okay. Maybe, okay, I'll try to do it again. Because it says here that you're already in room number 3. It's so strange. To
Ja, min regionen, hon schappade Gunilla.
Vad sa du?
Ja, min region, hon drog och lämnade Gunilla Gisslén.
Ja, såg det. Nej, Elsa, you
Yeah,
have to be here.
I don't
I'm
know
sorry.
what's happening because it's just changed from 3 to 1 to 3.
Yeah, I know, because it's impossible to move you from to number 3 because you're already there, but you haven't got into it. I don't know why this is happening. Because then I have to move you. Is it not possible? You don't see anywhere where you can go back to the main room?
No,
Because
I'm
you're
sorry.
in the main room now.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I don't see anything like invite
No.
to the room. That's weird. I don't know what Zoom is doing.
No.
Maybe I can
this
join
is
some other room.
Room number 2, I
Yes.
would suggest.
Yeah. Okay, we put you in number 2, and then we won't move you from there. If you
Okay,
get that.
let's try.
Ragnar kom dit också.
Vem fan är det? Är det norrman det?
Ja, och den har inte jag sett. Jag såg inte när den kom med. Alltså, han har inte varit med. Jag har inte så.
No, sorry. I think it's
Elsa.
I know. I think it's my Zoom. It's just not working because it's constantly throws me out of the rooms, but that's a problem. I can come a bit later back. I don't know
Yes.
how did you plan? How
About
long are the
20
discussions?
minutes. In
20
20 minutes, we are going to have a
Okay.
panel. If you
Okay, I will come back
about
in 15
in
minutes.
15 maybe.
15,
Yeah,
15 would
15.
be
Okay,
fine.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Great. Det var jättemärkligt, verkligen. Ska vi se. Jag har inte sett någon klocka eller? Klocka.
En kvart från nu eller så.
Jag sätter den på en kvart. Det är alltid mysigt att prata sådär, liksom på grupprummen då.
Ja.
Och ser du att de pratar? Nu,
Ja,
som
jag ser,
Ragnar pratar.
precis. Jag ser att
Ragnar och Kerstin pratar. Och det är mysigt. Och de här som jag skickade in i den irländska gruppen, då la jag in de från Rumänien och Italien i den. Det kanske var fel, tänker jag nu, för de säger inte så mycket, de har bara lagt... Ja, men de visar i alla fall sina ansikten, förutom Susanna Kalama. Ja, men det ser bra ut det där. Ja, bra jobbat.
Drog också.
Vad sa du?
Cecilia är med, men Yvonne drog. Hon är inte med.
Jaha, nej, okej. Så kan det vara. Kanske annat att göra.
Ja.
Vill du gå in någonstans och lyssna?
Nej, inte nu känns det.
Men du, alltså vi ska sluta spela in såklart. Nu ska vi se, stoppa.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. I saw that I have a lot of colleagues, for example, Susanna was here, Susanna Kalama, and other colleagues. So
Yeah.
a lot of knowledge. So yes.
Welcome back to the large room.
I think everyone are here now. I hope everyone had as vibrant discussions as we did on sort of well, at least we got to the challenges. Sort of, we can think of solutions now. But please, sort of, could you sort of say some greetings from each of the rooms? It would be nice to hear from everyone. What did you discuss? What were the biggest epiphanies? Something you want to share? Maybe raise a hand. We're not that many, but still, it might be good idea to raise a hand. Eva, you can start.
Yes, I think I start. Tarja and Susanna Kalama were in the same room with me, but I think Susanna is changing to phone as she's moving somewhere. But we had really good discussion, and I think we were just going around the challenges, and we had the Lapland perspective because there were some of us from Lapland and then the Helsinki. But I think we were discussing a lot about the finance, that the companies who would really want to scale up or grow, that they are unable to get loans, and sometimes when you're applying for public kind of support money, that the cooperatives are not able for applying for that. And we were talking about kind of that. Suski, you have a mic on. So, and then I think we were talking a lot about the decision making and the big companies, but I think we had so good discussions that it's really hard to just narrow it down. But I think kind of obstacles were kind of the growing and having the finances to grow. Thank you.
Thanks, Eva. Yeah, I think that wraps it up quite nicely. The discussion was very vibrant, so hard to put in so many words. Anyone else want to share?
Could you please, Jon, speak for us?
I'll try. So first we talk about another reason for scaling up is that you have maybe a good model or a good way to work, an idea of how the work should be done that others are inspired by and want to do the same, and then you join together in that. We have some examples in like work cooperatives and such, where the model has started in one place and then has started. They are working together in it, and then Ragnar told us a lot about how they are teaching Ukrainian refugees in Ukraine, in Norway, how the Norwegian system is working, and how then when Ukraine gets peace, they can move back to Ukraine, and Ukrainians and Norwegians can cooperate. Is that right? And more, Kerstin?
We were talking about the challenges to scale up, and often a cooperative is because of something, and there are people that want to do and work together. And when the cooperative gets too big, you lose the contact of me being a part of this. Like when I go and shop on Coop, for example, I don't feel that I own that store. So therefore we spoke about it. It could be a great challenge to scale up cooperatives because you lose the feeling of owning it, sort of.
This is actually sort of been in the core of my research to study how you hold on to the democratic principles as you grow. It's especially sort of, I think it's very evident in the really large cooperatives, and we actually talked about that. For example, S Group, which is also a huge retail cooperative. You really see shades of gray in how much they work for the cooperativism, let's say, to make people feel like they are part of the cooperative, to make people feel that they actually have a say in it. That being said, I mean, it's especially when in new sectors, I really feel that the problem is often not that you have so many people coming in that the democratic principles are endangered, but that often the, sort of like rural cooperatives really struggle to grow from ground up in a way. But really good points, and I think Yoon, your point of the replication, it is super important, and sort of the study that I showed about the German cooperatives really show that on a regional level. New energy cooperatives benefit from both the density of cooperatives in general, but also the density of energy cooperatives. So in a way, often these things can create self-reinforcing cycles. When you get sort of the machine going, you get more. You sort of like the replication happens much more easily. So often it's the first ones really have the biggest challenges, but once the sort of you know
It's easier if you can look at someone else.
exactly, and also the external sort of stakeholders accept sort of if you have models of sort of
if it works there, it can work here.
exactly, and often you look at you know people locally, and you look at similar actors like, okay, they are collaborating with those, maybe we can as well. So it's really sort of like this legitimacy issue. I think it's very very sort of prominent in these respects. Really nice points. Anyone else want to share from the room?
In our group, we were more discussing like food producers cooperatives, and also a little bit about like handicraft cooperatives, and we were kind of well, it was two of us from the same community in the Westfjords, and then people from Coompanion and Mion. So we were kind of reflecting, because I feel like we sort of have this image of cooperatives in Iceland, that we had strong cooperatives, retail cooperatives in the 20th century that grew really big, and I feel like that's the idea that Icelanders have of cooperatives, and I don't really think of it as something that can be started today. It's very rare, and it's been found to be even difficult. So yeah, we're kind of thinking about ways that, like, how can local producers get together, because we're a really small community. The whole of the Westfjords is a very vast region with 7,000 inhabitants. So and we have a few really, really large scale food producers, and then we have quite a few also small ones, but the way they like sell their produce to the local communities is mainly through like pop-up markets and stuff like that. So not really, so we're mainly discussing those things. Anything else someone wants to add from our group?
Thanks. Really, really nice points. I think that this sort of like old-fashioned sort of image of cooperativism is really interesting, because simultaneously I often feel like people are like, yeah, cooperatives are in the past, and sort of like, especially in researcher circles, cooperatives are often sort of discussed in a way schizophrenic way. You sort of talk about the old cooperatives, yeah, they are the old world, and sort of like they have lost their sort of a sense of direction. But then often, and if you sort of present alternative models, you sort of present new cooperatives in a way. But then often my question is, what happens when the cooperatives grow, right? So sort of like the danger of losing the mission looms every cooperative in a way. But I think I think you raise an important point, or maybe it's my interpretation of your point. But anyways, like what I would want to discuss soon, like as like for solutions, is this sort of like cooperation among cooperatives, we don't have to stick to cooperatives per se, but among small entrepreneurs, because I think sort of like one of the things that of course needs to change is regulation to enable some of these sort of models, and then we need to have sort of ready-made models for them, but we also need to sort of think of how we can sort of encourage cooperation, and sort of like hearing models on how to do that would be like super interesting. Susanne.
Yeah, I don't have any solutions or suggestions, but I was thinking about maybe we have different kind of views on what a cooperative is. We were in Edinburgh a couple of months ago, and they were starting to talk about business models that were inclusive and democratic, like more like a headline, and under that you can say cooperatives, and they have a certain form for cooperatives. If you choose to start a company that is inclusive and democratic, but you choose not to cross that check box, we are going to be a cooperative, then you're not registered as a cooperative. So this is in Sweden, I think it's more like you can start a economic association, but you don't feel that you're a cooperative. But maybe you use all the cooperative principles for voting and the democratic things. So
yeah,
just a reflection on that.
Yeah, it's actually, and often these, it's interesting with these images that they can really sort of they can be very sticky and very sort of enduring. I've been very happy in Finland that in Finland community economy is very different from communism. But because I think especially like English-speaking countries suffer from this stamp that easily anything communal sounds like communism, and sort of like, of course, if you can sort of label anything as communism, suddenly everyone loses interest and sort of don't believe in it. So it's really weird how these things stick and they endure time quite well. That being said, I think I teach in a sort of network studies. We have like module studies in different universities that universities can take, across university borders. And these studies are cooperatives, and especially young people are quite interested in the topic. So it's maybe sort of these labels are not as the label cooperative is not necessarily seen as old-fashioned as you might imagine, because people are looking for alternative models in a way. Is there still some room that has not had a say? If so, please raise your hand. Do you know, Susanne, have everyone already sort of commented? I don't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The first group, English speaking group from mixed from all the countries, Romania, Italy, and Ireland. I think it's like Anka from that group hasn't.
Do you
said
want to say
anything.
something? Of course, if you don't, you're free of not to sort of say, but.
I think it's Jamie from Islantica was in that group as well, I think.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we left for the last. We had a lot of discussion on the business based on production, on good production, and we had a really interesting discussion related to the challenges that we are facing, and I think myself and Jamie shared the information from our experiences because she's having a business in Alge. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, and Alga. And we are working on a social business on honey business, and we are trying to promote an association type of business. And as you mentioned just earlier, in my case in Romania is really, really sensitive to the use of cooperation term because we are a communism country, former communist country, and people are having the tendency, especially the rural area people, not to want to associate as a cooperative. And when we started the discussion with the local community to see if they want to associate because they were having products, but they didn't have a voice to sell their products. They're good quality products. They were selling it to the middleman with a really low price. The first thing that came in the meetings was we don't want to have another cooperation. We don't want to see the place of cooperation again. And we decided to go to association. And that was their main benefit after the first four started to associate together. It was that they saw benefit in an association. They started to sell their product at a really fair trade and at a good price. And now we have a lot more beekeepers into this association. The association started 7 years ago. The selling started 5 years ago, and we are in a development form. What is really important on the challenges that we face is lack of capacity for the local community and knowledge gaining. The other one is how you are maintaining the quality of your product by trying to scale up because you have your principles that you want to continue to have related to nature protection, to the quality of the product, and also to support local communities. And you want to keep that, but also you want to scale up. So to balance that, it's challenging. So I think I made a resume. I don't know if my colleagues wants to add anything.
I'll add one point where, because of the sparse population, the skill set match and capacity, like Anka already mentioned, is a stress for, businesses or probably co-op and associations as well. So it is very important to get regional developmental agency support to see that smaller scale is just as important as developing big businesses.
Yep.
Yeah, we really need that higher level support to activate because as we're already short on capacity, we're quite stretched out. It's hard for businesses to carry or co-ops to carry the weight of saving the region through some kind of ideas that maybe is not even valued by higher, more top down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Susanne?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about that importance to have a regional development support or something for the cooperatives or the social enterprises. Do you have anything like that now, a support system that you support structure for that, or is that needed to start to develop?
I think there definitely
it's for you.
More. Okay. There could be more initiatives developed to support and hopefully in a good price point too. Because right now we have to pay quite a bit of fee to be like part of certain things in the regional development initiatives. I think I get most support from joining Food Producers Association There are some collective bargaining of discounts that happens for food producers from all over the country, but that really relies on one or a group of very passionate food people to really fight. They even go look at policies with the national government with a very strong focus on their membership, their members' needs.
Yeah, it's really good, Jamie, to hear like your perspective, and because like I've seen this time and time again through this project, how because well I work for the Regional Development Association that is supposed to support entrepreneurs, but we don't really have the tools. For example, for cooperatives, we're not even familiar with and that's why we were trying to make more accessible materials through this project, and I really hope that will work out. And I would also love to like just get like please give all the feedback you can, like the obstacles you run into, because we want to eliminate those. So
Yeah, I would love to set up a meeting for this.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you for your super valuable comments. I think it's sort of from a research point of view, it's I feel it really frustrating that it's often sort of like if someone would ask me how to scale up, I could give a lot of tips how to scale up once you're already scaled up a bit. Because then often what you see, for example, in Dutch energy sector is that they are really sort of creating their own models within the community energy sector. But that's because they are pretty organized. They have like, as I told, they have these sort of like umbrella organizations on different levels. Some sort of prepare countrywide legislation, some support local organizations, some work with the municipalities. You have all kinds of sort of federated bodies that sort of do this kind of stuff, and it's really sort of it is necessary because I mean, as Anka said, often you have to develop the models yourself. If you want to hold on to the democratic values, you have to sort of develop the way of scaling up yourself. You don't have sort of models on the shelf. Of course, we can share the models here and we can learn from different countries, but they have to be often created respecting the local institutional environment. But then how to get that started if you sort of if you're very small and people are passionate, but still your sort of resources are very stretched. And Jamie, we also see this thing in Finland. We were just talking about that in our group, that in Finland there's a very sort of big company oriented mindset, and sort of like people it's hard to be taken seriously. But on the other hand, even if companies would want to scale, it's hard to scale if no one takes you seriously. So it's sort of like this sort of, in a way, vicious circle. But I think in sort of like the more successful cases of people managing to achieve economic sustainability and also to scale up really builds on cooperation. So it's nice to hear that you have sort of like this cooperation among the small players. And this is really what the small can do. They can join. That's their only weapon in a way. Of course, regulators can help, but it depends on political situation whether they are helpful or actually trying to hurt you. But then sort of like the small players, what they can do is collaborate. Susanne.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. I was thinking about what Jon said before about the scaling up the ideas, and perhaps it's easier to scale up values or like a movement for the climate, for instance, or for how to share food, or how to address the large the big problems we have in the world. It's maybe that's easier, and then find out when you start develop things how to get money to do it. I don't know. Perhaps that's more easy to just share values and scale up that thing than the actual business model.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I might have misinterpreted you. I thought it sort of meant copying, sort of replicating good practices, good business practices, good business
Yes.
models across. In a way, I think if we think about social movements, the dynamics is a bit different. It can be easier. On the other hand, it might be hard to then sort of really get long-term engagement, for example, with people in social movements. So I mean, the dynamics are different, and I think mainly these things sort of feed into each other. So, for example, if you have local food social movement, it's much easier to find people that are interested in sort of local food. So social movements are usually really good at information dissemination, whereas then someone needs to actually think about the practices of how to do it, right? So different animals, but related, I think. Jamie, would you like to sort of like tell about I really would like to hear about the collaboration models, because we sort of, for example, in our room, we talked about that sometimes, you know, you have this envy, for example, between people that sort of avoids the collaboration. Have there been any hiccups in the collaboration, and sort of like, is it driven by certain people, or is it more like a community effort? Can you tell about it? I think it sounded super interesting and important.
Okay. I can speak about collaboration as I'm a for-profit business. So what I try to do is to look at what people around me have like the skill set to do. For example, sheep farmer who can produce a sheep jerky, and then we try to collaborate to create a recipe together where there's seaweed and jerky together. Maybe the farmer doesn't want to be the person who approaches the market, then my company would take over the marketing side while the farmer would do the production, but also with our seaweed. So we're still trying to work it out. It's a new product, so we have to see how it is. So the obstacles I see from collaborations like this, it's really that going back to capacity. Like if we were to work with individual farms who can produce this jerky, but farmers also themselves have a very busy schedule, so maybe they cannot continuously supply through the year, and then it puts me in a difficult situation where I cannot go to supermarkets and say we can be trusted to have to deliver within the 4-day limit that you provide us. But then some really great collaboration really relies on finding people with the same mindset who is willing to share knowledge. Um, for example, I would grow working with another seaweed grower that is not at sea. They work on land. So we have to discover what our resources are, how we can pull together resources and help each other kind of get over the challenges. And in terms of joining Small Food Producers Association, I think it is mostly driven by a very passionate board, but members, we meet a lot during food markets here and there, and we share a lot of tips. And a lot of times people start to collaborate. Like a sauerkraut lady may start to use a lot of cabbages from their neighbors as well. So I think it always starts small. But I cannot talk about what it looks like if it scales up. Maybe it would help a lot if two companies pool resources and cover if someone doesn't have time or machinery to do this, the other company is ready to step up to fill the gap.
in a way, I think that's what it looks like. Often, sort of, I think I talk about cooperative scale up, but I don't really care if it's sort of cooperatives by, you know, by cooperatives are also for-profit business, right? It's just, you know, collective decision making and so on and so forth. I think it's really about, you know, creating these bottom-up models based on the people that you have. So I mean, that's the only thing that you can do in a way, and sort of that's also, I mean, there's no silver bullet. That's what I've learned so far is that you cannot really sort of like say we do this in Finland or in Lapland. Why don't you do that? Usually you say, well, there are these and these and these reasons why we can't do that. So it's really sort of about sometimes you learn about the ideas, but it is really about bottom-up organizing. There is no other way in a way. And then sort of slowly but surely sometimes growth happens. It's more like that growth happens through the collaboration than it is about sort of like you know, these are the things that the steps that you follow, and then everything goes greatly. So I think that's it's valuable to share these experiences, and I think that sounds really interesting and good. Sort of like these kinds of collaborations, because that's how you do it. And then sort of shortly, some people can maybe sort of then start focusing on roles, for example, regulation or supermarket sort of relations, because what you're describing, what I hear is that you're struggling with, you know, trying to work with the big model. You have to supply certain things. You don't have the supermarket that distributes your product in a way that's meaningful to your supply chains, right? So you have to then you encounter this problem that there's sort of an incompatibility. But thanks for sharing. Really interesting.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot from our group discussion with Anka, and how also her association implements certain strategies to have a
Awesome.
continuous engagement. Yeah, so maybe Anka can also give more points if that's okay.
Yeah. We have 5 minutes, but Anka, please, and then if someone wants to sort of say anything, or maybe we can give sort of after Anka, we can give the floor to Susanne and Pelle to sort of wrap the session up, and yeah. But please, Anka, you have the last word.
I think we are really lucky that we are able to work within one community for such a long time. And I think really important it was in the beginning that we took time and create connection and communication with the local rural communities, because they are disadvantaged communities that had a lot of work, like practical work, workers, farmers, and they didn't have time to build like an association. And I think for the first 2 years, we had engagement with them, see what they want to develop, because that rural area was in danger to lose his people, actually, because the work opportunities were really low. And in the same time, our association is focused on nature protection, and we wanted to include that nature-related activities into their businesses, and nature awareness into their work very much. And we had a lot of engagement with them. We found the key people that are willing to develop something, and it's really important to have these key people when you are starting a social business, because they are the drivers. They are the ones that are keeping the things together, and the good examples will bring another people within the association. And the association managed to expand at this moment. We are continuing to have regular meetings with them, and we are supporting them with bureaucracy, with paperwork, with development. And still we need a lot of work to do. We are continuously building on their knowledge, trying to add. We started with honey enterprise, and now we are expanding to tourism. We are expanding to other goods. But one main thing is everything is driven by them and we are supporting them to do, which is really important, because if they will have somebody to do it for them, that business will not continue to work. So the important thing is to have local people that are willing to develop and to support them as much as possible. I think it's a short resume that I managed to do. A really short 10-year activity resume.
Well, thank you very much. I think we have reached the end of this session, and we will publish, Pelle put it so well in the chat. We are going to publish this recording, and also we are going to make a written summary of it, because we used AI for that, and maybe we will adjust some. And I really hope that we will meet again, because this was really, really interesting, I think, from our point of view. Have a nice day, and thank you for participating so well. I hope we see each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Ja, men då så.
Stängt av AI.
Nej, nu ska vi stänga av, stoppa AI, stoppa